Welcome everyone back to EET 2303 for this 2nd of April. Uh, let's go ahead and continue talking about the rest of this forest growth assignment. Well, not the rest, but for part 3 of the forest growth assignment. This particular portion of the assignment will take care of the switch case number 2 that we developed in part 1. And this one, you want to determine how many years are required for 100% regrowth after harvesting. In other words, we've got a forest of a certain size today, and we want to cut down some trees, but we don't want to cut down all the trees, because then we'd have no forest for the future. So the question is, if I have a forest of a certain size, how many trees? Well, I can cut down some trees, but I want to know, okay, let's say I have a forest of 1,000 acres, but I need to cut 500 acres today, a lot of trees. How long will it take for that forest to regain its original size? And so we have a forest of a certain size, we need to cut down some trees, and the government wants to know how long it's going to take to regrow those trees back to their original forest size. Okay. In order to solve this problem, you'll need to prompt the operator to input the following information. Going to need the growth rate, I. Again, this needs to be a value greater than 0 but less than 20%. You need the total number of acres in the forest. We will call this value the future value. Even though it's what you have today, before you start cutting, it is also the same value we want in the future. So we will call that the future value, the number of acres in the forest you're starting out with. We need to input the number of trees we're going to cut down. I'll call that variable X. It must be greater than 0, but yes, less than this number up here. In other words, we can't cut down more trees than we have. Makes sense, right? And we don't want to leave no trees. So greater than 0, less than FV. And then, so we will need to take those two values, FV and X, and use that to calculate the number of acres that were left uncut. And that will be our PV value. PV equals FV minus X. And obviously that answer must be less than what we started with. Okay? And you should validate each entry. You should use a separate function to solve each problem or each issue. And all other aspects of the program structure are up to your discretion. So in other words, in part 2 we already should have a function that inputs I. We should already have a function that, let's see, we didn't do FV, we actually calculated FV. So, you should be able to reuse a function here. We'll have to create a new function for FV, we'll have to create a new function for X, and we'll have to create an equation that does this. Okay. And again, continue on, this isn't anything new. That's just a continuation. Again, the program needs to run until the user decides to quit. Okay, so what is the main equation? Well, here it is over here. And I will be sending this to you via email also today. So, here's the equation you will need to use. N equals the log of the future value. Subtract from that the log of the present value, and divide that difference by the log of 1 plus I. And so, you might ask, well, what log function do we need to use? Do we need to use the lateral log, log base 10, log base 2? It doesn't matter. Any log function will work for this. Just whatever log you use, it needs to be consistent throughout. In other words, if I'm using the natural log, all these need to be the natural log. If I'm using log base 10, all of them need to be log base 10. Okay, so once you've written that equation, then your answer will be n, where n is the number of years that it takes for the forest to regrow. Okay. This assignment is due by midnight of Tuesday. Part 2 is due by midnight tomorrow night. If you can figure out that one, this one shouldn't be too hard to do. I've pretty much given you the steps, and so this part will be due by midnight of Tuesday of next week. And I made sure I remembered to put in a quiz question for today's lecture. I've been forgetting that here, it seems like, this week. What is the main equation needed for this part of the assignment? Well, right up here. And I'll just repeat that equation back to me in an email back to me to verify that you've watched this video. Everybody have a good and productive weekend. Stay healthy, and hopefully we will see each other soon.